Would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you, who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk to. Gentleman's time has expired.
Christy, why wouldn't they just sit and talk to them?
So any normal person in that situation, any normal prosecutor would have turned around and looked at them, first of all, shown them that basic decency and respect, and said, make sure to leave all your information, your lawyer's information, contact information with me before you leave. I will make sure someone from the Department of Justice reaches out to you this week. Right? Like, how hard is that? Again, that's not a partisan issue. If you are a victim, if you are a crime victim who wants to speak to a prosecutor, wants to speak to an FBI agent, you should have the ability to do that. And this isn't just any case. This is a case that Pam Bondi has signed filings saying that there is extensive public interest in, with the most infamous pedophile in American history. So right after that clip, she was going around like showing a picture of an illegal alien that had committed a crime. Why aren't we talking about this? What issue do you have? Why do you keep trying to deflect from talking about the Epstein files and this crime that you have told the court you consider important? So it makes no sense. Not only does it not make sense, I would argue it's a violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act, which says that crime victims have a right to confer with the government. It also says they have a right to fairness, dignity, and respect. And what she just did there, I mean, how smug she was, keeping her back to them, not acknowledging that complaint, which is a very valid complaint, and just saying, well, just call a hotline. No, deal with it. But she doesn't want to step up. And I suspect the reason she doesn't is coming back to something Marjorie Taylor Greene said when she talked to Donald Trump and said, why don't you just give the victims an audience in the Oval Office? Why don't you meet with them? And he said, they don't deserve an audience. And so she's taking her cues from him. It's very clear you see the binder of zingers she's a puppet. She doesn't have any independent train of thought here. She had, for each member of Congress, she had what she was going to say to kind of come back to whatever that they were saying. And it's all scripted. She doesn't have independent thought. This is not her Department of Justice. She is not running things here. She's clearly a puppet. Donald Trump doesn't want to meet with these victims. He has made it clear from the top he has no respect for them and isn't interested, and therefore she's taking her cues from him, and it's a disgrace.
Tara, I guess I'm mad at myself that I can still be shocked and horrified by Donald Trump and the people that work for him, but I'm shocked and horrified that they have made enemies out of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
I don't know how you can do that. I mean, these women are victims when they were children of one of the most vile crimes. And, I would agree with Christy. They said case closed without conferring with the victims. And that does violate their Crime Victims' Rights Act. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that you have to talk to the victims of the crime before you decide the verdict, the case closed, we're ending this. And, all along, the Justice Department hasn't cared about them at all. Pam Bondi seemed completely heartless. She seemed completely soulless, frankly, out there. She seemed like she was working for Trump. She was Trump's defense attorney, and she had no interest in these women. 1,000 victims, by the way, all with the same stories. And, yes, she didn't seem to care at all. And I don't see how that's going to help the Republicans going into the midterms. This is not the face they want, and it was a train wreck. It was a disaster. I don't know how else to describe it, but today was an embarrassment for them, for the entire party.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know that Lutnick could look any worse than he already does, Tim Miller, but he sort of did. Like, if you've got someone, she's the one that was going on and on in defending Tulsi Gabbard being at the Georgia election office raid by saying, quote, we're inseparable, end quote, like we're besties. But she hasn't talked to Lutnick. I mean, her explanation was that, you know, basically like out of The Hangover, you know, 3 best friends. But she doesn't want to claim Lutnick, who happened to go to the island. And she's never talked to Lutnick after he just said yesterday before Congress that he and his wife and his kids and his nannies all went to the island, and he and his wife and his kids and all the nannies left the island. She just wasn't interested in talking to him about what he might have seen. I mean, the whole sort of farce that she had any interest in getting any information about any of the crimes that were committed and had nothing other than just disdain for the victim. She didn't seem interested in trying to disabuse anyone of that notion today.
No, she didn't. On the Lutnick thing, I guess the good news for him is that Kevin Hassett, the economic advisor, said that Lutnick was his bestie yesterday.
Someone claimed Lutnick.
So we got different lunch tables, I guess, in the White House where they're, you know, all talking about who their besties are as they run cover for each other.
So gross.
I just look. If you're somebody that actually did care about this, like there are people that genuinely cared about this, like either on the right or like within the kind of newer part of the Trump coalition was shorthanded with the Rogan verse, right? Like Trump has had to make a lot of people, you know, kind of eat a lot of crap over the last 9 years who support him. That's just a part of the deal of going along with Donald Trump. But people don't like to be made to be fools, you know, and made out to be idiots. And that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to basically say, hey, this thing that you cared about, that you told your audience you cared about, or if you're in the audience that you know, posted about and read about and learned about, you know, where you were concerned that, you know, there was this elite cabal of people that were sexually trafficking young girls, of men that were sexually trafficking young girls. And now I'm here to tell you that, like, don't believe your lying eyes. Like, there's not really anything more to look into. And in fact, what you should care about is that your 401k is going up. It's just like, how stupid do you think people are? I just, in this situation, like this playbook just does not work. And they're playing their own supporters for fools. And, you know, there are going to be some of them that are going to be happy to play along. I'm sure Hannity will give her a good review tonight over on Fox. But a lot of these other folks, you know, they're not signing up for this.
Yeah. And it's an interesting migration if Hannity does align himself with her. I mean, it has been in the past something that Republicans have talked about. You know, an elite child sex trafficking ring is a bad thing.